There's also the factor of time, of how your perspective, your way of telling the story, of seeing it, changes as time passes, as you change. Now, for example, I see that we must always have known, my younger sisters and I, that we hadn't been wanted or planned, that there was something complicated and painful for our parents in our very existence. But what we would have said then was just that there were too many of us, too many children in our family. So this might be one place to start my version of our story, how we felt about ourselves in our world, where every house spilled kids into the Chicago street. Most of them spilled 2 or 3, though. 4 was a little excessive. 5? Absurd. And there were 6 of us. 6 meant something different. A special case in some way. Catholic. Or a man who couldn't keep his hands off his wife. A neurotic breeder of a woman. People would ask, 6 of you? And yes, never seemed a sufficient answer. Occasionally I would say of myself and my younger sisters, well, we're the extras, passing along one of our father's nicknames for us without understanding it, as though it might answer the question. And sometimes it seemed to. Oh, the questioner would say. Yes. Certainly even then we thought of the family as neatly divided down the middle. The first 3, Macklin, Lydia, and Randall, were the special ones. Even those names, we thought, showed greater imagination, greater involvement on our parents' part than ours did. Nina, Mary, and Sarah. Clearly by that time they had run out of gas. But we didn't necessarily connect any of this with our father's nicknames for us. These were embarrassing, not because of what they meant, which none of us stopped to consider then anyway, but because they existed at all. Not because they pointed to some quality we shared, but because they pointed to us. He called us the unexpected guests, or the surprise party. He would lower his book and watch us as we passed his study door, the 3 of us always together. Under his high, narrow forehead, his blue eyes had the trick that eyes in certain portraits or photographs do, of seeming to follow you while actually remaining steady, unmoving. There they go, the extras, he'd say. Or, ah, the Fleetson, the Nina, the pint-sized, the Santa Maria. We were the little pitchers of health, the coup de grace, the last straws. We complained and laughed and whined about it. We told our mother, but it only made him worse. Pay no attention to him, Mother said when she was in a good mood. But when she was in the dumps, her mouth went tight. She would turn away from him quickly in anger. She'd pick up again whatever she was drinking, cold, milky coffee, flat beer, an inch or 2 of something brown and sticky in the bottom of a glass. I don't know why you imagine they're never going to understand you, she said once to him. Someday, out of the blue, you know they will. And then what, Lainey? He asked. And when she didn't answer, he said, the truth shall set you free. But there was no moment out of the blue, no revelation. It didn't happen that way. And though I did feel a strange sense, a sense that ran through my childhood, of being yoked to my sisters, of having some meaning as a group that had nothing to do with who I was alone or intended to be, still, what my father said remained as meaningless, as much a part of unexamined family habit, as when my mother called one of us Honey Bunch or Sweetie Pie. Who would dream of asking what these meant literally? In fact, it wasn't until years later, long after I already knew the sad story of how we got here, that I realized what the nicknames referred to, that I understood he'd been joking about it with us since we were small. Affectionately, ruefully, he'd dared to make fun of the awful way we'd come into the world.